In the recent NASCAR Cup Series race, Denny Hamlin came very close to victory, but ultimately finished second behind Kyle Larson. This finish showed how small differences can decide the outcome of a race. Hamlin admitted that he needed just a bit more speed to catch Larson, but he also defended Larson's performance, saying it was pure execution. So, does this mean that the racing at Bristol is really broken, or just hard to beat when someone nails it? Let's find out in today's episode. Hamlin was also surprised by how little the tires wore down during the race. Usually over time, tires lose grip and slow down the cars. That makes strategy and tire management more important. But in this race, the tires did not lose performance as expected. Hamlin pointed out that temperature played a big part. Just a 24-hour change in track temperature could have a big impact. Warmer or cooler track surfaces change the grip level, tire wear, and car handling. It makes the race harder to predict, and this time the tires stayed strong for longer than usual.
It's obviously a temperature thing, right? It's a riddle that's it's really hard to figure out, but it certainly, just a 24-hour period, it changes. It certainly seems like it's a track temperature issue.
When asked about whether this was the best version of racing at Bristol, Hamlin gave an honest view. He said it depends on who you support. If your favorite team dominates, then you enjoy the race. If not, it might feel boring. But he also gave credit to teams like Larson's when they perform so well.
I think it kind of depends on who you root for, truthfully. You got to give teams their due when they dominate, right? I just don't think we shouldn't throw mud on the racing or whatever because someone goes out there and dominates. I mean, I at least kept them honest for a little while. They were superior here in the fall, and they were superior again today. Sometimes you'll have that, and someone will hit it. That's what will happen when you have a really good team and a really good driver.
Hamlin also talked about how he breaks a race into parts mentally. When he reached second place with about 200 laps to go, he knew Larson was strong. In the early part of that run, Larson pulled away, but later Hamlin caught up again. That gave him hope that maybe he had something to challenge Larson with. So, with 100 laps left, Hamlin pushed as hard as he could, but still, he fell short.
Well, once I got to second with 200 to go or so, Kyle really kind of stretched it out on me the first 50, 60 laps of that run, and then we ran back to him heavy at the end of that before that green flag cycle. And at that point, I thought with 200 to go that Kyle had the best car. I was kind of next in line, and I was going to need him to stub his toe to win the race. I tried not to make many mistakes. I just kept running my race, and with 100 to go, and after I ran him down, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I got something for him here, and just gave it all I got. Just wasn't enough.
After the race, he and his team held a long meeting where they talked about what went right and what to improve. Hamlin said it was a strong race and a strong month for his team, the 11 car.
Yeah, absolutely. Really strong race, really strong month for the 11 car, and doing a lot of things right. But sometimes you run into a really fast car and a really fast driver, and you finish second to that.
We're now about 9 races into the season, and according to Hamlin, it's the time where patterns start to appear. We begin to see which teams will fight for the championship and which ones might fall behind.
We're 9 races in. You probably now can start to see, the haves and the have-nots and who's going to contend for this thing in the long run. And now we get to reset, and everyone needs that at some point. And so I think it's come for a good time for those two teams that struggled early in the year.
Meanwhile, Larson was making waves in more ways than one. He also competed in the Truck and Xfinity Series at Bristol that weekend and won both. That means he raced in 3 different events and won 2 of them. He was second in the truck race, first in Xfinity, and first in Cup. That kind of dominance is rare. On Kevin Harvick's podcast, Larson explained why he races in lower-tier series like Xfinity. He said he does it to embarrass the field. His goal is to show how much better Cup drivers are compared to the younger or less experienced Xfinity drivers.
In Xfinity, I do get motivated, and this is going to come across like very cocky, but I want to embarrass them, honestly. I want to embarrass NASCAR a little bit because they just don't let Cup guys run anymore. And the kids, they probably think they're in a good spot, and they don't know where the bar is really at. So I like to go run those Xfinity races and just get 10-second leads to let them realize that they've got a lot of room to improve. And I think that's only better for our sport. You know, when those young guys can compete with Cup guys, they're better suited for the Cup Series once they get there. Yes, I want to smash the field when I run Xfinity.
I love that.
That's motivating for me for sure.
Some fans didn't like Larson's honesty, but many respected it. He backed up his words with actions by winning in both series on back-to-back days. At Homestead earlier in the season, Larson also dominated. He built a 15-second lead in an Xfinity race and then won the Cup race the next day. These performances show that he's not just talking, he's delivering results. When someone performs like that, a little attitude is understandable. In fact, it brings a little personality back to the sport. NASCAR used to have more trash talk and bold drivers. Larson's comments reminded people of that old-school mentality. But NASCAR has made changes over the years to balance things out. In the past, Cup drivers could race in Xfinity as much as they wanted. Now they're limited. A Cup driver can only run 5 races per season in Xfinity and 5 in trucks. They can't race in Xfinity playoff events either. This rule stops them from dominating the lower series too much. But it still allows them to show up occasionally and teach the younger drivers through competition. In recent years, NASCAR has tried to find a good balance, and the current system seems to be working well. So far in the 2025 season, the results tell an interesting story. There have been 8 races in the Xfinity Series, and out of those 8 races, 7 were won by full-time Xfinity Series drivers. That means 87.5% of the races were won by the regulars. Only one race at Bristol was won by a Cup Series driver, and that was Kyle Larson. The Truck Series shows a similar trend. There have been 6 races so far, and only 2 of those were won by Cup Series drivers. Those wins came from Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson. The other 4 races, or 66.6%, were won by the Truck Series regulars. This proves that drivers who race full-time in these series are holding their own and getting deserved wins. When Kyle Larson battled Corey Heim at Homestead, fans got to see top-tier talent and rising stars go head-to-head. That kind of racing adds excitement and proves that young drivers can perform even against Cup champions. In fact, some races have had even more Cup drivers participating, but still ended with Xfinity drivers on top. At Darlington, drivers like Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, and Ross Chastain all entered the race. But Brandon Jones, a full-time Xfinity Series driver, ended up winning. That race was a clear example of how determined these regular drivers are. The balance is good for everyone. Cup drivers still join these races, but not every week. They usually pick a few races to enter each season. This also gives the full-time Xfinity and truck drivers the spotlight most of the time. It also allows the Cup Series drivers to test themselves and sometimes help their team collect data or grow their own brand. But most importantly, they're not affecting the championship race because NASCAR has made rules that limit how many lower-tier races a full-time Cup driver can join. And that's all we have for today's episode. But now YouTube thinks that you'll find this next video on your screen even more interesting. So, you might as well check it out.